Umishum kach inyan hamidus hu hadavar harishain etzel Yehudi. Therefore, the concept of midas taiva, good character traits, is the first thing by a Jew. The chol ha-mitzvahs heim inyanim pratim. The mitzvahs are individual things, how to act. Avol roish l'kol. But before all of that, the head, the first, the introduction, the foundation, before mitzvahs, a love l'taris amidus, we have to be mitar, purify our amidus, to purify our character traits. Because we were born with selfish tendencies and negative tendencies. These are things that we're born with. We have to work on ourselves to eradicate that. Leman yehe Yehudi mushlim mikaf ragloi va'ad roisha, in order to become a complete, full, emistic yid from head to toe. V'lachein in yinamidisu b'madrega gavoya kazu sherak mi shezichach v'tiar midoisa v'roi lios merkava v'ashreis l'toira. That's why midas is so important, because only somebody who purifies his midos can become a merkava, a chariot, to glorify, to lift up, and to be the dwelling place that Torah can dwell inside. In order for Torah to dwell inside, there is a condition, a precondition, Tanai Muktim, a precondition. Shekaidim ko yeh Yehudi. First, medav zayin ayid. You have to be a Jew. Torah nitna Yehudi. Torah, which is Moira, lashon of Moira, which teaches you how to behave, is given to whom? To given to a yid. Avodas hamidos, working on your midos, is an avodah kosher biyoser mikol ha-Torah kula. As we all know from Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, it's harder to change a bad midah than to learn the whole Shas. He says the hardest thing, harder than learning any sugya, is to work on yourself to change your midas, to become a better person. Hadoshis, which demands shinu yisodi, a fundamental change. Lishanis es hativius utchunas hanefesh, to change your inborn natural tendencies that you were given with. Kigoyin masha omru, like it says in Chazal, Hakina hataiva va'akavod mitzinas ha'adam and ha'olam. Kina is jealousy. Taiva is taiva. When a person desires things that are asur, and kavod, he wants respect. They pull a person out of this world. Harimisha lokli b'kina mufrezes, someone who is suffering with tremendous kina. He's extensive amount of jealousy. Or Baal Taiva v'kavod, or someone who is a Baal Taiva, that he is running after Taiva. He cannot control the Taiva. It is too great, above normal amounts of regulated Taiva that a person has to have. A person is supposed to have a certain amount of Taiva in order to populate the world, in order to do certain things. But when you have mufrezes, out of control Taiva, or a Baal Gaiva, or a Baal Kavod, Nidrash mimenu shinoi hamuhus. It's demanded on him a total change, a total life change of your essence. Kedei la'akar zois, in order to uproot that. Ubavur zeh yorad Yehudi la'olam. That's why you came down to this world. Lishanai says tivoisa v'estchunas nafshay. Why were we put down here? To change our tchunas hanefesh, our character traits, and to change everything about us. I've seen this, and I've heard back from TP siblings. They tell me, my parents are different. They don't get angry as much. They're calmer. They don't have anxiety. They say gamzu l'toiva more. They have a problem. They say, don't worry, Hashem Yazar. They have better emunah. They have better bitachon. They're kinder. They're nicer people. They started to care about people who are not just exactly like them. I always say the story, Shlomo Mekarlina. I'll say the short version. Reb Shlomo Mekarlina, the Heiliger Reb Shlomo Mekarlina, who was the Rebbe after the Beis Aaron, Reb Aaron Mekarlina, Reb Aaron Haggadah Mekarlin, he wrote the famous Ka'echseif. So after him, the Rebbe was Reb Shlomo Mekarlin, and he was showing a tremendous amount of ahava to somebody that everybody knew was a mamash lowlife. They were chayshid him. They knew that he's doing the worst averis. And Reb Uri Mistrelisk, the Saraf, the Sharfa, Reb Uri Mistrelisk, future Gadol Adar, he couldn't take watching Reb Shlomo Makalin shower this Bala Avera with so much love. And Reb Shlomo Makalin had Ruach HaKodesh. And here he is, you don't know what this guy is. How could you behave this way to him? So many guys, they see a guy smoking in front of the shul on Shabbos, you want to kill him. You throw him out, kanois. This guy is in the Kodesh Pnima, in your internal chamber, speaking to Reb Shlomo Makalin, and he's smiling at him as if he's the greatest guy in the world, and complimenting him and showering him with love. Reb Luri Mistrelis couldn't take it. Reb Shlomo Makalin understood what's happening, told the Buri, Mistrelis, go, leave the shtib, leave the office, leave this place, go to the Bis Medrash. Short while later, he gets called back. I always say, if I was a Buri Mistrelis, guy would probably be thinking like, me you can't tolerate? Me? Him you could tolerate? And you throwing out the good kid? And this huge Balavera, he gets love and I get sent out of the house? He came back in and Reb Shlomo Makalin told him, you have a chesaron that you have to work on. You could not love him. Your Ahavas Yisrael was limited. Some people can't love another Jew because they're from, and they still can't love them. They're different Hasidus, or they're Litvish, or they're Svardi, or they're Ashkenazi, and it blocks their Ahavas Yisrael. And some people can love everybody from, but not if they're not from. And Ahavas Yisrael is for every Jew, unlimited. He said, I wanted to show you what real Ahavas Yisrael is. My Ahavas Yisrael, he says, I was even able to love that person. I know who he is, but he's a Yid, Hashem's son, and I was able to shower him with love. So somebody who's suffering, he's lucky, he's lacking in his bad midos. One of the hardest problems is that he doesn't realize it. He thinks, I'm always right, I'm always better, I never miss minyan, I'm a big Talmud Chacham, and I also give tzedakah, and I'm being honored. That person can't be helped. Sometimes it takes a catastrophe for that person to wake up, to be so broken that he realizes, I have to start from scratch. And the worst part about that person, his learning is just another thing that makes him have worse midos, because I'm also a Talmud Chacham. And I'm also better than you. His Torah, his davening, his mitzvahs, he uses to make himself even bigger. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't do that. He was Anav Mikala Adam. Tzaddikim didn't do that. They didn't use their Torah to boost their ego and to make them monsters. But people who have bad midas, not only do they start off with bad midas, but the Torah that they learn and the mitzvahs that they do, they make them worse. It's samamavas for them. They're out of control. They put people down. They have to be a kanoi. They don't have good midas. You're not a kanoi. You have anger problems. Everybody who thinks that they're everybody who they want, I'm a kanoi. You have to be very edel to be a kanoi. You have to be very careful. We have a lot of rules on being a kanoi. Blasting people and blasting things is not a kanoi. You're just a balgaiva. That you think that you're entitled to an opinion, and you think you're allowed to hurt other people and knock other people, and you have a huge ego, and you have an anger problem, and you're doing it in the name of Hashem. That's the problem. That Torah, the same Torah that takes a Rav Pam and makes him into an angel, and Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky and Rabbi Gershon Edelstein, Yibadel L'chaim, Rabbi Gershon Edelstein Shlita, and Rav Steinman, and all the tzaddikim. The Torah built them into angels, the way they dealt with people. And the same Torah can make people who are monsters into big monsters. Because the Torah itself is only going to help you once you are a Jew who has a Mayach Yehudi, who has a Lev Yehudi. You are a Yid, and a Yid is someone who has sweet midos, who is mitalmidav shel Avram Avinu, ayin toiva, ruach nimucha, nefesh shvela, who works on himself, works on his anger, works on his self-control. Therefore, says the NESIVAS Shalom, Nikras ha-Masechta b'shem Avos. Everybody says, why is this Masechta called Avos, fathers? You know why? Avos meklal de'ika told us. You're learning Baba Kama, right? What does it start? It says, Arba Avos Nezikin. There's a head of a category. What makes you an Av? Because you have told us, because there's a subcategory. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov were the Avos because they had children who came out of them. Person starts an organization, he's the Av because there's a Talda, there's subcategories. Avos, it's called Avos, this Masechta. Michlal, listen to this Chiddush Gadol. Michlal de Ika Taldas. What is the Taldas? What are the children, the subcategory that comes out of these Avos, of Midas? Kol HaTorah. He told us Le'inyan Midas. Wow. We look at it like, go to yeshiva, learn 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and Musa say that you work on yourself a few minutes. No. He says, the Avos is Midas. All the Midas in Masechtas Avos, go through it and become them. The Memches, everything. Being like Hillel, be like Aaron, Oyev Shalom, Reidav Shalom. That's the Avos. That's the entrance and the foundation of being a Jew. And the Toldas that comes out of it is the details is Torah. Torah is a Tolda to Masechtas Avos. You ever knew that? Anybody ever tell you that? Ha'avos heim sheyeh Yehudi Shalom. The main thing is about our religion. The head of the religion, the head important part of it, is to be a Ganze Yid, a full Jew. And afterwards, then you could have Torah and all the madregas until you could have Ruach HaKodesh and Nevuah. You can't have Ruach HaKodesh and Nevuah if you don't have good midos. You could have Torah, knowledge. You can't have Torah, Oira. It says in the beginning, somebody who wants to be a chassid, and it doesn't mean curly payas. It means to be a righteous Jew. L'kayim milu da'avos, he has to be mekayim all of the things in all Masechtas Avos. A person that says, I want to be a chassid, I want to be righteous. If you don't want to be righteous, what are you learning Torah for? Who doesn't want to be righteous? Who doesn't want to pass away from this world? Halavai should say, here lies a righteous Jew. So many nisyanis that we have. So many reactions to things that we have. We have to react like a Jew. And in order to do that, we need to work on ourselves. We have to go to the gym hours and hours a day to get muscle. We have to go to the gym of Midas hours and hours a day to dedicate ourselves. There's no other way to become a righteous Jew who thinks like a Jew and acts like a Jew, feels like a Jew. Only if you are Makayim, the words of Avos. And after you become a ger, you now become a Jew. In all of your Evarim, then you could become that chassid, the righteous person, to have Ruach HaKodesh, to have Nevuah, unbelievable. What a lesson. For us, obviously, it's very hard for us to learn 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day of Musar. But we can learn a few minutes and we can think about it all the time. Every time you want to react, think about your angel. To me, Rav Pam, even though I didn't learn by Rav Pam, I only shook his hand one time. But he's my paragon of virtue. I think, what would Rav Pam do? And you get involved in all kinds of stuff. Would Rav Pam get up and be the one to put his foot down, and we have to, all those people, once you're looking like this, you're not. I think of the NESIVAS Shalom. I think of the NESIVAS Shalom and all that he taught. And I spoke to people, I never met him. I was learning his Sefer while he was alive, and I didn't know he was alive. I didn't know he was. It's crazy. I spoke to people who met him, and they said, what he writes is what he was. Think about it. Would he act that way? Think about tzaddikim, how calm they are, how careful they are not to step on anybody, not to push anybody away, not to damage anybody's ego. Read the stories. I'm putting together a book of 5,000 stories. How careful, how the Chavetz Chaim, the Chazon Ish, how they were careful, even with Yiddishkeit. There's one quick story. The Chazon Ish heard, before Tkiyah Shofar, there was a boy, 9, 10 years old. He told his father, I'm hungry, can I go get food? His father said, listen, we're going to start Tkiyah Shofar. Wait, after Tkiyah Shofar, it's not that long. You can go have your tuna fish sandwich. This wasn't a sick person, it wasn't an old person, it wasn't a dying person, it wasn't an off the derech person, it wasn't anything. It was just a kid who had breakfast, who had his nash, who gave him his candy in shul, whatever it was in those days. And he was hungry. So, he could wait, right? The Chazon Ish went over to the Chazan and said, you know that before Tkiyah Shofar we say 7 times, Lam Natseach Levnei Korach Mizmar? Why do we say it 7 times? I don't know. But if that's what they decided to be misakein, to set up, that we need to say that 7 times before Tkiyah Shofar, it's obviously very important. Tkiyah Shofar on Rosh Hashanah is the greatest moment of the year. And if you learn NESIVAS SHALOM and all of the kavanis of what it does and how it saves us and how it blows away the walls between us and Hashem and it breaks the gzeiros and it gives us brachas, and as an introduction to that, we need to say 7 times, Lamatzeach L'vnei Korach Mizmar. It's obviously very important. The Chazon Ish, though, saw a boy is hungry, and he didn't want the boy to have to wait that extra 7 minutes while we say that. He went over to the Chazan and said, skip it, go straight to the Tkiyas. Can we understand that? Can we understand that? And I'm sure he didn't want his congregation to lose. He obviously felt that caring about that kid is a bigger schus, or as big of a schus as everybody crying, Lamatzeach Levnei Korach Mizmar. Sacrifice, understanding, to care, when you hear about, to shed a tear, to care about other people's tzaras and their simchas, to have a Lev Yehudi. Oh, halavai, we should be able to have a heart transplant. Halavai, Mishkan, Bilvavi, Mishkan Evna. Halavai, we should be able to get rid of our hardened hearts. Going through life, we get hard. People hurt us, we have to put up a wall, we have to defend ourselves, and we have very damaged hearts. Halavai, we should be able to purify our hearts and our minds to think like a Jew. Our first reaction should be Mayach Yehudi reaction. Mayach Yehudi reaction, Lev Yehudi reaction. And that's what Avos is all about. If we have that, then the Torah that we learn will go through our veins, will infuse us with the highest levels. We can become much greater people. But it starts with being a Jew. Torah is given to who? To a Jew. What's a Jew? Someone who works on his midos.